Well, the easing of restrictions imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic meant more journalists were out on assignment in 2022 compared to previous years, but that, combined with an expansion of deadly conflicts, has triggered a spike in killings and jailings of journalists.
Violence in Mexico, war in Ukraine, repressive laws and crackdowns directed at the media. 2022 has been a tough year. With journalists jailed in Iran for covering protests or killed in the West Bank covering clashes, arrests and deadly violence are at an all-time high. Media watchdogs say press freedom in 2022 has declined.
Unfortunately, we observed the sharpest increase in journalists who are being detained, held hostage, and killed around the world.
Reporters Without Borders reports that 533 journalists were detained this year and 57 killed. China, Myanmar, and Iran are the top jailers of journalists, while Mexico, Ukraine, and Haiti were particularly deadly countries to cover in 2022. Russia's war in Ukraine left a huge mark, with Moscow imposing repressive laws aimed at stifling reporting, and iconic news outlets were forced to close. In Ukraine, journalists work to keep staff safe and audiences informed.
It's not easy to cover any war, but especially so when it's a war that is in your country and you're not just a journalist who arrives on the scene and then goes home to safety, but there's no safety for you, there's no safety for your family.
But war zones aren't the only danger for media. In Mexico, violence and the targeted killings of journalists led to the country's most deadly year. Media watchdogs there say the repercussions are wide.
What worries us most is lethal violence, because when a journalist is killed, something known as a double murder happens. The murder of the person and the silencing of the stories and investigations that are not going to be told. It has a very strong, cascading effect of fear and censorship.
China continues to be a leading censor of media, and its influence is felt in Hong Kong. Analysts believe the high-profile trial of Apple Daily founder Jimmy Lai is being used to send a message.
And so with these national security cases, it puts everybody on notice that if this could happen to somebody as prominent and as wealthy as Jimmy Lai, it could happen to anybody.
Elsewhere, repressive governments such as Afghanistan's seek to block access to credible news. The Taliban has banned VOA radio broadcasts, but journalists say they'll keep at it.
They trust us and they want to hear us, and no matter what, they will find us.
Laurel Bowman, VOA News, Washington.